Hey guys, this is Jessica. Welcome back to the Retro Farmhouse. If you're new here, please consider hitting the subscribe button as well as the notification button so that you know when I'm uploading some new videos. Today I'm doing another trash to treasure video with a few items that you usually probably would throw in the trash, and then a couple items that I got at the thrift store that I'm trying to upcycle. So I will end up showing all of the results to everything at the end of this video. So stay tuned and let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so this candlestick right here is the one that I got from the antique store. It's not an antique, but we're gonna change it a little bit, change the color of it and make it look more vintage looking. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray a couple layers of my Krylon chalkboard paint in chalkboard black. We're gonna do a couple of coats of that and let it dry in between each coat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply some paint over the top of my candlestick here, and we're going to do a little bit of wet distressing just to kind of give it more of that aged look. So what I've done is I've taken 3 of my Arteza paints in Marshmallow White, the Olympic Blue, and the Battleship Gray, and I've kind of mixed them together to kind of create this more of a baby bluish or grayish blue paint. I'm just going to apply that all over my candlestick here. Okay, so I brought you guys in for a closer look here. I don't know if you can see here, but I've basically taken this and have applied a second coat, but I've applied it to just certain areas so that I still have a little bit of a streak look. I kind of like this look. It gives it a little bit different of contrast and just also makes it look a little bit more worn. And in a minute here, we're going to take just a wet rag and we're going to wet distress some of the areas just to distress some of the edge parts. So the last step is I'm just going to seal this with some clear wax and it'll be good to go. And I'm basically just brushing some on and I'm going to kind of blend that in, wipe it off just a little bit of the excess so we don't have that all over the place. My next project, I got this little cutting board decoration at the thrift store for 75 cents. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the little gingerbread man and this little rolling pin and the bow so that I can sand this down and start with my design. I'm going to go ahead and take this wet rag and just put it over top of these pieces here. It basically was just some cardboard type pieces glued on. So I'm going to just soak that a little bit for a little while to see if I can soften that up to get that out easier. So to mute some of the underside lettering, I just went ahead and put a light coat of spray paint on both sides of these. You can use white, black, anything like that you're trying to use as I guess a barrier to keep the underneath from showing through too much while you're painting. So now I'm going to use my white chalk paint and I've mixed a little bit of my Savannah chalk paint in with that just to give it a little bit of a cream type color. I wanted to make this a little bit different than the general white that I usually use. I love painting things in white, but sometimes I just want to try like something a little bit different. So that's the color we're going to use right now. So now I just want to create some grain sack stripes on the side of my cutting board here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my tape here and I'm going to line that up as best as I can with the side piece. And that's just going to be kind of my spacer piece right here on the side. And then I'll just put my next piece beside these to kind of create the stripes. So you can a lot of times use your tape as your spacer pieces if you want, depending on where you want your grain stripes to be. So for these first stripes, I'm going to paint a different stripe in my Waverly chalk paint. This one is the hazelnut. I get this one from Walmart. You could probably also get this off Amazon. If I can find a link, I'll put that down below. Okay, I'm going to use my little sponge, makeup sponge applicator, and I'm just going to kind of dab this on like a stencil. So for this one, I have printed out a little stencil from my Silhouette Cameo 3, and I just did a little Bible verse. I wanted to use this one for the fall, but also to have it as something you could use year-round. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my little makeup brush here, and using the same colors that I used here, which was the Waverly chalk paint in hazelnut, and I'm just going to lightly stencil this with some of that paint. So my next item I got from the thrift store is this little glass cylinder. Usually these go up under a light fixture and they're screwed in here. I found this over by all of the other little light canisters and things that they had, and I think I got this one for like 75 cents. So it is kind of a cool kind of a farmhouse looking light. So what I thought I would do with this one is just do something really simple. And if you've seen any of my previous videos where I've taken a couple of my pickle jars and added some wire to them, that's what I plan on doing with this, and kind of making like a little, you know, like a little lantern or a place you could put a candle down in or something like that. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. So the wire I'm using here I just got from Lowe's. You can basically probably get this from any hardware store. I like using the black one. It just looks more vintage-like, but obviously just know that this stuff does have black stuff that comes off on your hands. But I make sure that I get a pretty good amount to start with, and then work my way from there. So I'm just using my needle nose pliers here to cut this, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply this to my canister here. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm trying to find my middle point, and I'm gonna start here by taking this around and kind of going as tight as I can with this. And I'm gonna take, once I kind of find my middle point here, I'm gonna take that and I'm kind of gonna twist it, and I'm gonna just create like a little teeny loop here, so that way I have a little bit of a loop on one side. And so that's going to be where I'll attach my handle. I'm just going to take this and wrap it around here and pull it as tight as I can. And I'm going to just start twisting my wire. So now that I have my desired length, what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of shaping this over with my hands. And I'm going to bring this part over and I'm just going to bend this up and it will be attached. Okay, so for my next project that I'm working on, I recently had got these bag of wooden spools. It's basically just what thread would be on, but a lot of these are vintage. And there's a lot of different colors in here. A lot of them have some really cool old labeling on them. And so I also have this old piece of kind of like barn wood or just reclaimed wood that I cut down to about 2.5 feet. And so what I thought I was going to do is I want to create a project to repurpose these. I'm glad that this person actually saved these. Sometimes these pretty much just got thrown away. But I'm going to repurpose these into a hanger. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I'm going to do that. I'm kind of going to decorate this up a little bit just to give it some more dimension rather than just the board here. So come along with me and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So this particular stencil that I'm using is from the Americana brand. I've had this one for a little bit, but if I can find it on Amazon or one that's similar, I'll link that below. So this is the one that I'm going to be using. I do have a Silhouette Cameo 3 that if you have something like that, you can go on and find these kind of designs and use that for this as well. But also for just for purpose sake of those people that might not have one of those machines, you can get a lot of these stencils off of Amazon or maybe in craft stores, and they're really easy to use and you can wash them up and reuse them over and over again. So that's what I'm going to be working with, and I'll show you that. And I'm probably just going to be using like a some of my white craft paint. Here I have the Home Decor Folk Art brand chalk paint that I use a lot, and I get mine off of Amazon as well, and so I'll put a link below for that one too. Okay, so I'm basically, my go-to is just a little makeup sponge, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get the smallest amount of paint on here and kind of dab most of it off. So I don't want a whole lot on my applicator when I'm stenciling this. So I'm just gonna kind of put this all over, back and forth. I kind of want this pattern all over the board, so we'll just kind of place it as I see here. So I'm kind of just gonna hold this down. You can also tape this off if that works better for you. So for my next step, what I've done here is I've basically taken one of the, or a couple of the spindles that I had from that crib. I had several of them left over. And so what I did was I just cut off some of the ends and I measured it to my sides and my cross pieces here. And I've just kind of made a little frame for my wall hanging here. So I'm going to attach this with some finishing nails. I think these are maybe about 1 inch. I have a brad nailer, but I don't really want to get that out, and I'm just showing you a different way that you can accomplish projects like this without having to use those fancy tools. What I like to recommend is I usually use my drill bit here. I have a really small one that I'm going to drill some pilot holes with. And then once I've done that, I can then put in my finishing nails. And I'm also going to apply a little bit of wood glue all around this as well so that it stays and has a strong bond. So I've taken my spools that I want to use and I have lined these up on my board, and basically the one in the center, I found the center point of this whole board and I've measured that on both sides kind of to see where I wanted that to be in the center, and I've marked that. And then after that I took my two end ones and I marked about 2 inches from the sides and I placed those there as well. And I put marks there so that I know where those need to be when I go to attach them. And then for these other ones in the middle, I just kind of eyeballed these. If you really want to get really specific, you could measure like all around, but they're pretty close, and I'm not that big of a perfectionist when it comes to that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to attempt to drill a pilot hole through the back side when I'm attaching these, and then apply a screw in through the back and in through here. I didn't want to put anything in through the front just because I didn't want a screw hole or anything showing from there. So we're going to attempt to do that to see how that works, and then also put some wood glue on the underside of this so that helps to kind of create more of a bond as well. And this type of like little hanging rack, it's probably not something you can put really heavy things on. I think a lot of people put certain decorations, they put them in their foyers, but let's go ahead and I'll show you how I'm going to apply these spools on here. So the best way I found to attach these is obviously I'm going to try to put a screw in through the back, and I told you I was going to drill a pilot hole. So for most of these spools, they have a solid part through here, so I definitely want to make sure that my screw is not, you know, doesn't go in this hole, but it goes a little bit above it, so that way it has something to catch onto with the wood. So in order to do that without trying to drill through the back to have the pilot hole, I'm just going to go ahead and drill that through the front. So I placed this back on my marks here, and I'm just going to come down probably like 1/2 inch or a little less below my line of where I've marked that, and I'm just going to drill my pilot hole here. Now for this one, I do go all the way through, and I'm going to just place this back on there and then kind of just see about where I want this hole to be. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a small amount in this as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my screw here, and I'm just going to go ahead and drill that through until the tip is coming out of the front, and then I'll know where to connect this onto. So now you can kind of see the top of my screw is sticking out here a little bit. What I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to take a little bit of wood glue, and I'm going to put this around my spool here, and then I'm going to take where my hole is, and I'm just going to match that up with my screw. Now I'm just going to take a damp rag and I'm going to wipe away the excess glue here. And that's on pretty sturdy, pretty tight. So I'm going to do that through the rest of the way, all the way down through here. Okay, so this one's the next quick little project that anybody can do. I just happen to have this little apple juice container. It's like a smaller one rather than some of the bigger ones that I get. I get a lot of these for my daughter. She drinks apple juice. But if you're ever going to use some of these for any type of projects, I like this one in particular because it's got like a leaf pattern around it, so it kind of reminded me of fall. And a lot of times I soak these in just some dish soap and hot water for a little bit, and usually the peel comes right off. And if you have any kind of stickiness underneath there, I usually take some Goo Gone and wipe that over top of it, and that gets that right off. But a lot of times They also have these little stamps on here that is usually the expiration date or, you know, best buy date. And sometimes if you don't really want that on there, I'm going to show you what I do to get those off. So basically it's just a little ink stamp. So I'm just taking any kind of nail polish remover. This one's, I don't think this one's anything special. I think I probably just got this one from the dollar store. But I'm just gonna dab a little bit of nail polish remover on there. And then let me see if I can show you. And then I'm just going to start wiping this off, and this is gonna come right off. So you kind of see there where it's starting to come off, and you obviously see the ink stain underneath. So that just wipes right off, really easy, nothing difficult, not a whole lot of rubbing. And that comes right off, and that just makes it to where, you know, you don't have that annoying stamp that's on there, and you can use your glass bottles or whatever for any type of project. So I'm gonna go ahead and soak this and take the label off, and then I'll show you what I'm gonna do with this next. So what I'm gonna do with this little bottle here is I've wrapped that same stencil that had the leaves on it around this bottle, and I've kind of taped it on both of these sides. So I'm gonna attempt to take some of the Arteza gold paint that I have, and I'm going to stencil that on here just to create a little bit of a design, because I'm kind of looking for like a fall look, especially since I already have those leaves on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by just stenciling it with this little makeup brush that I have. Okay guys, so the last thing I want to do for this bottle, anytime you're painting any type of glass, you'll want to put some type of sealer over top of it, because it can scratch off. This paint is actually good for glass, so it does stick on there pretty well, but you still have that risk of it scratching off your pattern. So I'm just going to use my Mod Podge gloss sealer. I wish I had matte, but it won't really make a difference. Just to kind of spray a couple of light coats over this to protect the paint job that I have on here. And usually when I'm just cleaning some of these, I just use like a dust rag. I don't really put anything on this because I don't want to damage anything. So just lightly dusting it with just a plain rag works well. And here's how today's projects turned out. I hope you guys liked today's video. If you did, please hit that like button and sharing a comment, as it does help me a lot with promoting my channel. And I again appreciate you guys. I hope you guys liked the last video for the Q&A. If you have any other questions, don't forget to drop those below as well. And again, I'm going to try to go live next week if I can, with just a few things. It won't really be DIY related. It's more of where we're going to be going. But if if you're interested, you can pop in and check that out if I'm able to figure that out. If not, I will be back the week after that with some more DIY videos. So hope you guys enjoy everything, and thanks again for checking us out. And I have my nosy crew here today that is checking everything out to see what is going on. So every time they hear me talking, they think I'm giving them a treat.